Hey everybody, welcome back to another week of my podcast. I hope you guys are having a great and fantastic day. And before we jump into it, I just want to give another shout out to, you guessed it, Haven Cottage Investments. Haven Cottage Investments. You know, these people, they know what they're doing. You know how many times I've said that they know what they're doing? Too many times. It's true. They know what they're doing. All right, any investments, any property, literally anything and everything that has to deal with real estate, just give them a call. They know what they're doing. All right, all the information is down in the description. Go ahead, check them out. Give them a second. Give them a moment of your time and see what they can do for you. All right, everybody, without further ado, here's the episode. One More Podcast. All right, everybody, welcome back to the One More Podcast. Don't worry, I cut everything else.
Oh, thank God.
Anyway,
what?
We are talking about Hacksaw Ridge because it was like $13, and I was like, I've never seen it, and I'm just kind of in that World War II mood. I don't know. I've just like recently
and
playing...
it's Black Friday, and he's cheap.
That's true. I mean, Black Friday with some good ass deals. You can't really blame me at all. So. Anyways, Hacksaw Ridge is the movie with Elrond and Spider-Man.
You're gonna have to
Okay,
clarify which
sorry.
Spider-Man.
Oh, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man.
Okay.
So,
The middle Spider-Man.
Yeah.
yeah.
Not the bad one, but not the good one.
Which actually, it was really funny.
Which one's the bad one?
What was
Don't
the
say
early
Tobey
2000
Maguire.
Tobey Maguire, yeah.
Yeah,
He was
he
the bad
is
one.
my Spider-Man. He will always.
Yeah,
I
every time I think of
appreciate Tom
Spider-Man,
Holland
I
or
will
whatever
give you
his name
that.
is.
He's my
But
Spider-Man.
of the three, he's the worst.
No,
No.
he's not. Andrew Garfield's the worst.
I think Andrew Garfield
I don't know.
Andrew
Emma
Garfield's
Stone
the
is just a goddess, and whatever she's in is always beautiful, and you can't say
Well, you have to
anything
You
about
can
separate
that.
look
the-
me in the face and say Amazing Spider-Man 2 was a beautiful film.
I don't really remember that one.
Well, then
Okay,
there you
well,
go.
there you go.
I just remember it was bad.
Yes.
So that's what everyone else says.
No, it was just so freaking messy. Go
Oh
ahead.
no,
Sorry.
you're totally fine. So in the for the Spider-Man, the Homecoming movie, they have the advertisement to buy the other Spider-Man.
Yeah.
There's zero mention of the Amazing Spider-Man. It's only the
Yep.
original trilogies. So because you know why, Thomas, you know why he got kicked off, right?
Why?
He legitimately insulted a Sony executive. I don't know if it was a racist.
Andrew Garfield or
Andrew Garfield, yeah. I don't know if it was a racist remark or something like that, but he did something and he got kicked off at Spider-Man.
so that's
They were
why
going to
he's
make a
in
third film.
Probably either they were planning on it, they were in the works, but yeah, no, he.
I'm looking up why he did that.
Yeah,
so,
that's fine.
So that's why Mel Gibson picked him up?
I guess. I don't know. Maybe, yeah.
He said something
That makes sense.
anti-Semitic, and they joined a club.
Exactly.
Mel Gibson's like, my senses are tingling. My spidey senses are tingling.
Andrew Garfield.
But yeah. Anyways, we watched the movie with Andrew Garfield and what is his name? I don't know. Not L. Ron Hubbard. Somebody else. What is the actor's-
Hugo Weaving.
What nationality is he?
I don't know.
He sounds like.
But he has one of my favorite voices ever. His voice is
just a voice.
yeah.
in general?
Because did you ever see V for Vendetta?
No, I haven't.
We'll have to review that at some point because it's
Okay.
one of my favorite superhero movies.
All right.
But he wears a Guy Fawkes mask the whole time. and
Oh,
his
that's
voice-
him.
Yeah.
He's the guy.
Yeah. And it's amazing.
Okay. All right. All right. So as we're gonna set up, Blake, do you have the reason why?
More and more little details continue to drip out surrounding Andrew Garfield's departure from the role of Spider-Man. In spite of the fact that Sony had announced release dates for Spider-Man 3 and 4, it went on to pull the plug on the series after the second movie failed to fully ignite the box office. Garfield was duly dropped as the incumbent web-slinger, and with Marvel coming on board too, Tom Holland was duly cast in the role. Holland, of course, debuted as Spider-Man Civil War. There's been rumors from 2015 that suggested Garfield had in fact been fired by Sony following an alleged dispute with the then Sony chief Kaz Hirai, or whatever.
Yeah.
Hirai?
Yeah.
Over a special promotional event. The event in question was set to take place in Brazil, where The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was reportedly set to be confirmed, but Garfield ducked out with sickness, the given reason. The Guardian has quizzed him on what just happened and whether he effectively sabotaged his own Spider-Man future by not attending the event. He had an argument with Sony. What I'll probably say is that I didn't compromise who I was. I was only ever myself, he said, not exactly putting out the flames. And that might have been difficult for some people, he added, throwing a bit more fuel on them.
So I full-heartedly believe that a Sony exec probably got pissed off and just canned him. I mean,
Said something about they wanted to thin out Garfield's eyebrows.
What?
He said this didn't affect him, but that, in quote, I learned so much about what feels good and what doesn't.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
So
let's let everybody just imagine what could have potentially happened. I'm done talking about Andrew Garfield. Let's talk about Andrew Garfield in this movie, not about Spider-Man. All right, so Hacksaw Ridge. It threw me for a loop. How much they. Well, I'm not sure necessarily how to jump into this, but okay. Overview. Let's do overview first. So, young boy starts in his childhood, grows up. He's kind of in this podunk town in the middle of nowhere,
Virginia.
Okay, Virginia, sure, whatever. Podunk, Virginia. And enlists in the army, goes through training. The only special thing about him, it's okay, Thomas. We can admit to everyone that you're a butthole. Anyways, goes.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. He is strictly. Well, what do they say?
He's a conscientious objector.
Of carrying a gun or shooting or killing or anything like that. So he wants to join the army. As just a medic, as a combat medic. So and for me, and we can get into this in a little bit, but for me, I thought it was, I expected it to be shorter, the introduction and the setup, and I thought more combat was going to be related.
It's like 2/3 of the movie.
No, exactly, yeah. And that's why I checked in the middle of the movie to see when they actually started showing boots on the ground, troops and stuff like that. So so then there's that transition after boot camp, and he kind of gets everyone's respect.
He gets court-martialed first.
Well, okay, you're right. So court-martialed, but then he still sticks to his guns, sticks to his convictions, and then his father, who served in World War I, his
got
CO,
a favor from one of the generals.
Yeah,
his father's captain in World War I is now a general.
Yeah, exactly. And so
he kind of pulls some weight in.
Well, no, I thought he was a colonel.
No, he's a general.
No, he's a general.
His dad is a general?
No, his dad was just
knows
a private,
the general.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
his dad.
Well, I mean, his dad was like a lieutenant or something like that. I don't
Corporal.
remember. Corporal. Sure, thank you. I think that was it. So
Bottom.
it's still better than a private.
His captain was the now general in World War
Sure.
II.
So anyways, gets that favor. He's excused and he gets served. So they're going immediately. And then that was another thing that we can touch on is I thought this was going to span. And I didn't know anything about Hacksaw Ridge. I didn't know anything about that conflict.
You came in with nothing.
Do it.
You came in knowing nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was good. I think that was good.
Sure.
Because I went into it being a WW2 buff.
So you were already familiar with the
I was familiar
conflict?
with Okinawa, and I was familiar with specifically Iwo Jima because I read like 3 books on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in knowing what
to expect,
what this was going down.
Okay. So then that conflict happens, and then we can get into that in a little bit, and then it ends up with him being discharged because he got wounded, and we'll talk about why he got wounded and stuff, and my thoughts on that. I mean, I don't know, for I guess movie direction purposes, I don't know about how legitimate the experience.
Yeah, we're going
was,
solely off the movie. We don't know how accurate.
From what I've read about, and I guess we can wait until we actually get to what he did on Hacksaw.
Yeah.
So let's
okay. I will say I'm very interested to kind of talk about where Mel Gibson. I think where you have the movie and you have the story and you have the baseline truth, and then the little spikes in the movie where Mel Gibson puts in his flair, and I'm just like thinking, okay, this is obviously Mel Gibson being Mel Gibson. So he gets discharged, and then he gets married, and then which I thought was really cool. I would have been okay with it either way, but I always like when they do kind of the after movie stuff, the information. It doesn't have to be super in depth. It doesn't have to be, but I think it was really nice. Adding those videos at the end, I thought was really touching, and kind of just hey, this actually happened. The couple of scenes that were explained at the end of the movie.
That's from a documentary, right?
Yeah, it was a documentary.
They
on
actually
the
had a
History
documentary?
Channel.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
because
okay.
he died in 2006.
Right. No, I know it wasn't like
Yeah.
me.
Well, it wasn't made for the movie.
Spider-Man talking in 2016.
Well,
But yeah. So okay. So beginning of the movie. Here, let's see. I wrote a bunch of notes because originally I wasn't really going to write any notes, but then I had questions. I was like, okay, I know Blake's going to get really annoyed if I'm just like blurting questions.
No.
No, I know, but
Go ahead.
all right. So okay. So in terms of and this is what I always find really really interesting. It can either turn me off of the movie or get me ready and get ready to invest in the movie. Is how much time they spend on the character development. and how much of this time they set up on the introductory and then because I think we can all agree that the bulk of the movie, even though it was still, halfway through the movie, because this was like a little over 2 hours, something like that.
Yeah, 2 hours and 11 minutes is when the credits roll.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I think halfway through, the bulk is obviously the conflict, but they spent a lot of time, building this person to, you relate with and vie for, and you want Spider-Man. I don't remember the guy's name.
Desmond Doss.
Desmond Doss. Sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna go between three names: Doss, Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield. So anyway, so you want Doss to, at least for me, I was behind him. It doesn't matter what his convictions were, and I know, Blake, that you mentioned at the beginning of the movie, this isn't a religious movie. This has elements of that to play a part in the movie, but it's definitely nothing about. And
right.
I wholeheartedly agree. So whatever his convictions were, I was very much with him. But anyways, we'll get to that in a second. So beginning of the movie, I don't know why they included the childhood. Someone please explain.
I was actually going to ask that exact same question.
Okay.
I thought
it's not uncommon for brothers to fight and to, get in fist fights.
Sure.
That's just what we do as little boys.
Mm-hmm.
We just, wrestle and fight each other. They needed to show that because one, it showed that Desmond took it too far and he could have killed his little brother. And so when he was looking up at that mural on the wall that said the sixth commandment, thou shalt not kill, that's when the idea started to get planted in his head. Because as young kids, whenever we're told by our parents, hey, you need to go to church.
Oh, that was his moment, kind of, so to speak?
That was kind of. And I think his
moment... Or at least
moment,
in the sense of the movie.
Right. I think this moment came later when he was talking with Private Smitty in the little trench where he said
about Pearl Harbor.
Well, no, when he was talking about how he held a gun up to his father's head,
right.
And his Smitty was like, "You didn't kill him," and he goes, "In my heart, I did."
Right.
I think the point of the childhood, him hitting his brother with a brick, was showing, just planting the seed in his head. This kid, that's not what this kid is about. That's not who he is as a person. Mm-hmm. And that's how it kept growing and growing and growing until at some point he got so fed up with his dad beating on his mom that he put a gun up to his head. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I feel like as a man, he was like, I can't do this.
Okay.
I cannot do this.
All right. No, that makes sense. I'm just, because with me, I think the movie could have worked just as well, if not, depending on the execution of it, where they left out the childhood and they just, hey, here's Andrew Garfield, he's a young adult, blah blah blah. Spend the time that they had on the childhood on that to just make us more attached to him, and then just do a flashback to that, like where they get to the where he's talking about whatever his convictions at whatever point in time he's talking about the convictions. Just have a flashback of him playing with his brother and then him hitting in the head and just referencing that versus...
Yeah, I think there was a point, though, where we needed to know what his father was about.
True.
And what his father does, and who's an alcoholic, drunk, beater. I feel like that was important to Desmond's character as a young man.
Okay.
And so I feel like that's why they included the childhood, because it showed his dad at his World War I buddy's graves, drinking, and then he comes back and their brothers are fighting and he goes, great, whoever wins, I'll beat his ass or whatever.
Yeah.
It helps show what his father was about, and I think that just added to the flair of the character.
Okay. See, I'm kind of with Blake on this one, because like the whole point of so if they would have just shown him as an adult and then he goes into training just being like conscientious objector, like, oh, he's just a little bitch or whatnot.
Right.
It was like the fact that they showed his childhood, it gave a little meaning behind that. Like, not only is he just a CEO, here's why, and it's not just him being.
Sure. No,
And
now that you've explained it, it makes sense. I always think it's interesting because, I know some movies that it's literally just one scene of a childhood, then it's like 15 years later, and then some spend a little more time, a little less time. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Sure.
I held this question because I didn't think it was of much relevance, but when his brother enlisted and he went through and everything like that. I didn't, at least until he was talking later to, I believe it was Smitty, when he talked about Pearl Harbor happened and he felt the need to join. I forgot. Oh, no, that was the court-martial scene, right?
He took it personal.
Right, he took it personal. before then, I didn't know what his reasons were. He just seemed like, oh, I'm going to join now. And like, I get it. You.
He couldn't live with himself if he didn't.
But I don't think they made that as apparent as they should have. Like maybe like if they put that, if they had the court-martial scene, that's fine. But they also said, okay, they made a bigger deal about Pearl Harbor happening, and then he's like has this moment where he says, I need to go, because it was very sudden, all of a sudden, where he was driving his then girlfriend down and to the hospital, and he's like, I'm joining. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean,
well, remember on their first date, it showed the attack on Pearl Harbor. It showed the war film.
It was a propaganda.
All right, yeah.
So that was
him.
Okay, and that was him. Like, and then right after that, his brother, joins up, and that's when he was like, I've got to do this.
No, sure, and I mean, it makes sense. I think it was more, instead of like, yeah, I get it, I'm behind you. I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. You know, I thought that was kind of interesting. Anyways, okay. Would this have been a different movie for you if this wasn't like a country bumpkin setting? If this was like in New York or something like that, or do you, because I feel like for the most part, and again with my very limited knowledge of war movies, a lot of those hero or not well, again, he is a hero, but the main characters, they're from Virginia, South Carolina, you know, wherever, that I'm just a country guy serving my country or whatever.
I'm trying to think. So we have Forrest Gump, which I don't even know if you can call a war film. He was from Alabama.
Yeah.
You had Black Hawk Down, where you didn't know any of the background on any of the characters. Saving Private Ryan. The only thing we know about the captain is that he was a school teacher in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I'm just trying to. I don't know. I don't think that would have made a difference to me.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
Because I don't know. It may have. But for me, that was a small part of what this story was about, and so I look at it as kind of relatable. And I grew up in Carrollton, so it's not like I'm living out in the country or whatever.
No, I understand.
But that's how I view myself, and whenever I go to grandparents or uncles or whatever, that's where I'm most comfortable. So there was some relatability there with Desmond. Okay. But I don't know. I don't know if that would have made a difference if you had some boy in the Bronx. No, I don't think so.
210.
Yeah, if this dude was born in the Bronx or whatever, because I don't know. I haven't seen a war movie where a kid was grown up in the city life, and here comes military, him going to war. I've never seen that before. So you may be right.
I swear there's a guy in Band of Brothers.
There is?
Yeah.
And they show flashbacks of him.
Oh, not flashbacks, but he's like city educated. He was a Harvard student. Getting a degree in, I think, like English or something, and he stopped to go join the war.
So he wanted to be
So there is some of that kind of
sure, but I'm saying like
rural versus suburban aspect in Band
I think there kind of is, though. I think as a whole, people in rural settings, and there's a stereotype about people in rural settings where they're much more patriotic and they're less educated, so they don't know why they're going off to fight. They just feel like they have to go fight and blah blah blah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And no, I don't think so. And I think it's a bad stereotype that they're putting on, that is just now ingrained in our psyche. But and I don't know. I think that adds to the story. A simple life where you can run in the woods and everything's okay. To here you go, you're in the worst possible environment imaginable. I think it's a big contrast that needed to be set. In order to explain how Desmond did all these things.
Okay. One last thing I wanted to mention or talk about before we move on to the actual military sequence. The love story. Was it important? Well, I mean,
I thought it was.
Because I think the amount of time that they spent on developing this relationship, sure, I get it that she was, they're part of the reason the court-martial happened was because he was going to get married. So if she wasn't there, or if she wasn't as emphasized as much, we wouldn't have, had that transition. But I think they could have easily replaced that aspect, like maybe with a best friend or something, or whatever it is. But because I think there was a lot going on in the movie. There was the parent dynamic where this disapproving father, because he has the father-son problem, and because the father doesn't want his kid to die. This love relationship between him and this person that he's going to marry, him and his own personal conflict with, him being in the military, and then just Hacksaw Ridge. So I think there was a lot of different aspects of this movie that was all going on at once. So do you think it could have been better if they took time away from the love story and said, yes, there's a girl out there, I'm there for her, but just kind of pay that cheesy, stereotypical, I got a girl back home, blah, blah, blah type deal? Or, how impactful was this love scene, or not love scene, but relationship for you?
So part of the reason why Desmond did what he did was because conviction towards Christianity and his Christian beliefs. Mm-hmm. And she gave him that Bible that almost was right over his heart, the meaning of why he's doing all these things.
True.
And I feel that was very pivotal in terms of what Desmond, or who Desmond was and what he was about. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel like if, one of his good buddies or his mama gave him the Bible, mm-hmm. it wouldn't have been as heart-wrenching to me. Because when I first saw this movie with my girlfriend, if she wasn't there, I would have cried.
Yeah, that's
me being honest.
No. There were definitely some scenes where I was just like, "Ooh, what is this? What am I experiencing?"
Right,
down
when he's
here?
calling for his Bible at the very end.
Yeah,
I remember my chin kind of buckling and my throat getting soft in the movie theater, and just saying, "Blake, be a man, push your emotions down. Think about some manly shit or whatever."
Yeah,
and so it was all that build up from the youth. I think it was incredibly sweet and. Awesome how he interacted with his wife. And
he was very...
I thought it was so innocent.
Yeah, very much.
And I remember thinking that in the movie, and then when he's calling out for his Bible at the end, saying, "My Bible, my Bible, my Bible," with his girl in that Bible, a picture of her, mm-hmm. I think that was necessary to the film.
I think she could have... I don't know what the real life story is. I'm going solely based off as like a storytelling point for the movie. I think she could have easily been replaced as the mother, and I think it would have been better because it would have offset. It would have been a more interesting family dynamic. You would have been able to go more into that. It's like, yes, you have this abusive, drunk father, but at the same time, you have the mother that kind of keeps him held up. So if they would have played off like the mother-son relationship as for the whole movie as they would have maybe with the Desmond wife, I think you could have had the same, but. At the same time, having him and a wife, it makes him like almost a more complete character, maybe for the time setting. So
he's a more round,
I guess
you can relate to him.
I guess
a wider audience can relate to him.
I guess what I'm trying to say is he needed someone else. Who that was, director's take, I guess.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. So, I don't know. I feel like it added to the contrast between peacetime and wartime. So before that, everything is going great for him. He's got this beautiful girl at home. Everything is going great. And then with the flick of the switch, he is now in hell.
Sure.
And I think that was very important because right when it starts, that first bullet flies, it does not stop.
Yeah.
For about 45 minutes.
Yep.
It does not stop.
Yep.
And I think if you didn't have that sweetness, here's innocent Desmond, and then right when he lifts up that guy and he screams and that first bullet hits the first soldier.
Yep.
I think that was something I haven't seen in a war movie. I don't think ever where
we'll
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying we'll hold on to that. I want to get to the basic training part first, and then we can go on to there.
Sure.
So real quick, I wrote this down in order, not order, but I wrote it down. All right, so Elrond and Spider-Man, good actors.
Absolutely.
Do you think they played I think, if I'm going to be honest, I think I really like the dad more than Andrew Garfield. That's my preference. I'm not saying that he did a bad job. I just, in terms of the part that they were supposed to play and the amount of effort and kind of that,
he was better for that character.
Oh, very much so. And I don't know. I feel like that character, since he is kind of this and again, I guess that's just kind of the story.
Characters, kind
of. Sure, but like with Andrew Garfield, he played just a simple character. I don't think there was a lot of complexity. He just needed to show love and determination and I guess resilience. And that's about it. Whereas I think the dad had to just pull out all the stops of like depression and anger and love and this kind of realization and
yeah, I kind of see what you're getting at, but I also think that was, at least from seeing him in real life, I think that's honestly what he was like in real life.
Who? Holland or Spider-Man?
Spider-Man. Desmond Doss. Yeah. I think that's more because seeing the interviews. No, sure. I think that he was just he was a straightforward guy,
and exactly, and no fault to Andrew Garfield, but I think I guess just the character was more interesting because with Andrew Garfield, what you see is what you get, kind of that surface level. He shows love and he sticks to his convictions. That's about it, and that's not bad necessarily.
Versus a drunk deadbeat dad who,
but
at the last second decides to.
But not even
when the whole movie or the first part of the movie, he's telling his son, "You're a fool for going off to war."
Right.
And then at the last second, he decides, you know what, my son deserves to go to war, and I don't know,
the same choices at his age.
Right. And I don't know. Andrew was nominated for an Oscar for this movie.
Oh, was he really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Hacksaw Ridge won 2 Oscars.
Did the dad get any nominations?
No, he wasn't nominated, but it won Best Achievement in Film Editing, Best Achievement in Sound Mixing. And it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Performance in an Actor in Leading Role, Best Achievement in Directing to Mel Gibson, and Best Achievement in Sound Editing.
Okay. But no, the sound and stuff like that, and for sure the visuals and the audio and stuff like that was fantastic. But,
right. But I don't know. I guess I get what you're saying. I think that's one of the hardest characters to portray, and that's why you have your Best Actor Oscars going, and they're revolutionary or revolutionizing roles that we all remember, and almost guaranteed they win Best Actor. True. So we think of Russell Crowe from Gladiator. Mm-hmm. He won Best Actor. There Will Be Blood. Anything Daniel Day-Lewis is in. It's the internal struggle that I think is the hardest thing to portray.
True.
Because it's very easy to, you're going to be this emotion for a scene. Mm-hmm. Hugo Weaving, you're going to be a drunk dad who's crying and beating his wife. Go.
True.
I'm sure it's not that simple, but
no,
when you're having to portray a million different emotions on the front lines of one of the worst, war situations imaginable, I don't know. I think that's much more of a complex character than a drunk dad who.
So then let me ask, who was the worst actor? Not
in the movie?
Yeah, in the movie. Not saying that they were bad, just compared to the tier that everyone else was at. Who do you think played the worst?
Go ahead, Thomas. You're going to say Vince Vaughn.
I am going to say Vince Vaughn. Part of me is I think he was completely miscast. Fred Claus should not be in a war movie.
Okay,
but that is me spoiling it for myself. That agree. Is entirely me.
I agree. Probably the first 10 seconds when he is first introduced, but then after that, I thought he was.
He acts very well. I'll give him that. I just can't take him seriously.
That's fine. And Vince Vaughn. That's a problem with comedic actors.
Yeah, no, he's a comedian first.
He got that same problem in True Detective season 2. If you ever watched that on HBO, where he had to play this big badass mob boss. And I thought he did great, but no one can separate him from the guy from Wedding Crashers and Swingers to here's a guy that's having to betray a legit badass. He was just in a movie, I forgot what it was called, but I've been told I need to watch it, where he plays this prison inmate who is just trying to get out of prison.
Get Hard?
No. But it's a serious role, and he apparently did an amazing job in it.
I think that's why I really like Vince Vaughn. Is because I've only seen him in goofy, silly movies.
It's the same thing for Jim Carrey or Adam Sandler, I think.
Of course. And
I bet it was a little weird.
I was actually going to bring up Steve Carell because I still thought of him as, what's his name from Michael from The Office.
When you watch The Big Short?
The Big Short, yeah. But I don't know what it was. It was something I don't know if it was just because I like him as a better actor and that's just me, but.
No,
I don't know. I thought he pulled it off better than Vince Vaughn.
I do. The
agree transition.
That I do agree that that's some.
He also had a movie called Foxcatcher right before The Big Short, where he was Steve Carell played this character in the Foxcatcher, and he got nominated for an Oscar for that role. It was a very serious role, and so Hollywood kind of opened up to the idea of Steve Carell being this really great dramatic actor, and I think that was an easier transition. But also remember, The Big Short was kind of a comedy. There was a lot of funny elements in that movie. And so I'm sure it was a lot easier for Steve to play this bombastic, over the top, New York stockbroker or whatever. The worst actor, I think, was Sam Worthington, who He was the captain that Vince Vaughn took Desmond to first, and he said,
"Oh, that guy." Okay,
yeah, because he's an Australian actor.
Oh, really?
And you could definitely tell. His accent was I could whenever he said Hacksaw Ridge, you could definitely tell that whenever he said Saw, it was an Australian mix, and whenever he would, I don't know, the accent part was kind of did it for me, and I think that's a product of this is Mel Gibson's first movie coming back from his meltdown in 2008 or 2009 or whatever, and so I doubt there were a bunch of I doubt there were a lot of big name actors that were just flooding to come to this movie set trying to get in one of Mel Gibson's movies, whereas before Mel Gibson was one of the best directors in Hollywood, and I think he still is, but one of the best directors in Hollywood, and everyone wanted to be in the next Mel Gibson movie.
True.
Now, because of that meltdown, now he's kind of built himself back up to where people now still respect him as a director and as an actor. But I think when this movie came out, everyone was like, Mel Gibson doing a movie? Who's in it? Vince Vaughn and Andrew Garfield?
Fred Claus and Spider-Man?
Fred Claus and Spider-Man and Agent Smith? No, I feel you. Stay away a little bit.
I feel you.
That's right. That's Agent Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
I don't know. I forget the initial point, but
who was the worst actor?
Oh, that's right. Sorry, I'm like blanking out. I think it was. I don't necessarily want to single out any of them, but the other people from Basic Training.
Yeah,
I think they were. And
the secondary characters?
Yeah, and I mean, I get it. Sure, you're not going to get big tier actors for people who only have a few lines of dialogue, but I don't know, because I feel like, and this is my next point, obviously there was a comparison to FMJ and this movie itself. So
FMJ, Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah, Full Metal Jacket.
Okay.
So
what did I say during the training?
You said it. You
were like, no, you straight up were like,
I quoted.
I was trying to listen to the actual dialogue, and you're just like running off these sergeant
Fred Claus was handing out rifles to everyone,
and you just did that whole scene.
I started quoting off the scene where he's like, "This is your rifle. The only pussy you'll be getting for the next."
Yeah. So yeah, and
you'll give your rifle a lady's name. A good war. I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, I love FNJ.
Sergeant.
FNJ, okay.
Because he was a real sergeant, too.
Well,
I can't.
Yes, he was.
You can't, I mean, I don't know if his Fonz, I don't know his history.
I don't think he was a real
Fred Claus was not a sergeant.
Hey, you never know, man. He could have maybe done basic training.
Maybe.
I'm actually genuinely curious about, like, when doing a war movie, how many actors try and do basic training, or like a mock basic training?
Yeah, so who directed Full Metal Jacket?
I don't know, but he hired.
Well, he was the
guy who played the sergeant as a consultant,
right?
First.
So I think it was Platoon, where who directed. So Oliver Stone directed Platoon. That's it. Oliver Stone directed Platoon.
Okay,
and he was one of the first directors to have his actors actually go to a boot camp, so that they built up the camaraderie between each other. Yeah, and then Steven Spielberg ended up doing that with Saving Private Ryan, with all of those actors together, just so that they built up that unit mentality to help them whenever they were acting in the actual movie. And I don't know.
Just like in Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, just like in Tropic Thunder.
This movie exactly like Tropic Thunder. All right, so then which one do you think? Because I think
I don't know. I think when Smitty was saying, "I'm scared, I'm real scared," it all seemed very, very cliche in a war movie.
Okay,
which I don't fault. The actors for that. They were given a script where you have to say where you're dying. I'm scared. I'm scared. Oh no, I can see. Like, please help me. Please help me. I don't know. That was a product of the writing more than the acting. I feel like.
Well, okay. So, but real quick before we move on, fully move on to the actual hacksaw part. The basic training in comparison to, because I love Full Metal Jacket. That whole scene, I think it took on multiple levels with the.
It went deep.
It really did,
real deep.
So, do you think this basic training was giving you enough time / was effective enough to make you care about this platoon and about this group of people? Because I think we already care about Andrew Garfield because we've set up this childhood in this family and we get the backstory. But then bringing in this huge cast of like. I don't know, was there like 8 other people or something?
Sure.
They introduced like 8 or 9 other people at the basic training. What were you going to say, Tom?
Yeah, ask yourself this. I mean, this was a pretty like standard basic training scene. Like, yeah, I could see this scene being in any other movie with the exception of Full Metal Jacket. So
Sure.
I guess you're really asking the question: do basic training scenes kind of do?
Yeah, I mean,
for you?
they could have easily just skipped it. And,
Yeah, at least for me. I mean, it was nothing special. It's just your cut and paste basic training scene for any war movie for me.
do you think that?
I don't know. So my thing with basic training scenes, whenever you have anything from World War I to World War II to Vietnam, is you try to put, or the director, I think there's a line where you give the character, where you put so much time on the characters that in boot camp, where they become, your guys that you want to see live through the end, to where they become dispensable, I don't give a shit characters. But I think there's also some movies that capture the idea that you're just a nameless, faceless figure with a gun. And that's a reality of some situations where they don't have time to worry about who you are as a person. They need a gun on the field, and they need men out there just for the sake of having men. And I feel like there are some movies that touch on that, like Jarhead. And you guys have ever seen Jarhead? But Jarhead it's about 30 minutes of boot camp, and they're about to go to fight in the Gulf War in the early 90s. And those characters are dispensable, to the point where at one point, one guy in boot camp gets killed. So they were doing this drill where you're tunneling under barbed wire and in mud, and they're shooting a 50 cal over the heads of them, like by 2 feet. So you're supposed to stay under and keep going through. This one guy panics and lifts his head, and he gets shot. And that's in boot camp. That's in boot camp.
Wow. Okay.
And so I think that for that movie, it showed how these guys are kind of dispensable.
Right.
Like, whatever. Next guy in line.
Sure.
And so I feel like, I don't know if that's what Mel was going for in this, because I don't think he was, because Smitty ended up becoming a big character and a big badass on Hacksaw Ridge, and ended up talking to Andrew saying, man, I was wrong about you. Here's my past. Let's talk about this stuff. And so, yeah, it kind of missed on some parts. Like Hollywood, I didn't give a shit about his character. Tex, the guy with the lasso, we never saw from him again.
True.
There's a guy with the lasso?
Yeah, at the very beginning.
Yeah, who thinks he's a cowboy. We saw 2 or 3 other characters in boot camp that we never saw again. Huh?
That was Hollywood.
That was Hollywood. And I think he ended up getting saved or whatever, but I didn't really give a shit about him.
I mean, it was really just that one guy who was kind of an asshole from the beginning,
right? But there was like the chief, Smitty was the guy. But Chief, who I think had a flamethrower at some point. I think he was a flamethrower, or he had a flamethrower in the middle of the battle. He gets the flamethrower blown up on his back, and so I knew that it was Chief, but I'm worrying about where the hell is Desmond.
Right. So in terms of having, I think it's set up. So would you agree with the statement if I said basic training, or at least in this movie, basic training was to set up the dynamic, the court-martial, true, but the dynamic between him and everyone else, and
it was him versus everyone else.
But when you see all these other people getting shot, you're not going to go, "Oh my God, he got shot." You'd go, "Oh my God, Desmond got shot." But other than that, these people were I guess it was used to build that him versus them, and then the transition of, oh, now we're all together.
Now he's trying to save these same guys that were giving him shit for 6 months before.
All right. Okay. So if anyone doesn't have any other comments, we're gonna finally get to the actual Hacksaw Ridge. All right. I just think out of everything that I've seen before, in terms of like to show, like, and it doesn't even have to be a war movie, but just to be as realistic as possible, and just really show gruesome horror, and just literally what it is. I thought it did an amazing job.
Oh yeah,
it was very from like the start, when that scene that you said about the Japanese guy coming up screaming, and then the other guy getting shot in the head, to like the very end of the movie. I thought it was just, again, like you said, just back to back. And honestly, like, there were some parts where I was just like, I don't know if you'd noticed, but like my feet were curled, and I was like, I was tense and I was nervous, and like it was very much and I can totally agree with getting it the sound mixing nominated for. Did it win, or did it get nominated?
It won
sound mixing.
It won film editing.
Okay, the editing was also good. I will agree with that.
But I think part of that also has to do with the Pacific Front was almost an entirely different war.
Yeah, it was a lot more gruesome than Europe.
Sure.
I mean, think of the climate and the environment. You're in a warm tropical climate on the equator, whereas in Europe, you're much more farther north. Polar,
yeah, but there's also a different style of fighting.
The Japanese
style of fighting. They didn't care.
Yeah,
the Japs did not care about their lives.
They were told to kill themselves, not to get captured.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it was. I was going to touch on that. It was a much different style. It was much more of a just mass scale guerrilla.
Yeah,
fighting.
The Germans would never pretend to surrender.
More of your
throw grenades and
typical.
Yeah, you saw a transition from how the world saw the U.S. military, and this was, I think, what the Japanese emperor said after they bombed Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "We've awakened a lion that I don't think we should have."
It wasn't the emperor.
Who was it?
It was Commander Yamamoto, the guy in charge.
Okay, well, he said,
Admiral.
He said, "We've awoken a lion."
Yeah, he was a sleeping tiger.
Yeah,
we've awoken the sleeping tiger. He was against bombing Pearl Harbor from day one. But he did what he was told to do. He knew it was a bad idea and that they couldn't win or beat U.S. in the long run. But his orders,
the world's mentality on the U.S. military, specifically the Marines, shifted, and so everyone knew about the Army and everyone knew about the Navy and the Air Force, but the Marines up until that point they were kind of nobodies. They were the grunts.
Yeah,
they were also much newer too.
Oh yeah, they were much newer, and so.
Navy SEALs were invented in World War II.
I thought they were after JFK signed the Navy SEALs into action because they were supposed to be a special ops team.
Yeah, they were supposed to help
put
infiltrate bombs underneath enemy boats. I thought, and explode boats.
Well, then you may be right. I remember JFK specifically signing in Navy SEALs as a official. Branch of the military.
I don't think they were SEALs at the time,
but they were underwater demolition teams, right? Well, you could draw the lineage,
back to this is where the special more water based,
right?
I guess.
But after that, after World War II, you saw these Marines who the world has never seen a group of guys with this ferocity in them before. The Marines turned into this team of ragtag, bunch of guys into one of the world's most elite fighting forces. So after that, we had. The Korean War, where the first people on there were not the Army, they were the Marines. And after that, the first people in Vietnam was not the Army, it was the Marines. And after that, Marines are going everywhere now. Marines are our guys now. Army we save for later. Army we save for after the Marines are knocking down doors. That's what they do. And so, I don't know.
I can't tell what branch of military he likes better.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I don't like any of them more than I like the other. But I think there is a special place for Marines because of boot camp. So my backdoor neighbor, Larry, is a Marine, or was a Marine. And I kept telling him, hey, I kind of want to go into the military. What do you think about the Marines? And he said, the Marines sucked. Like, we're sleeping on sometimes the ground for a few months. Like, it's brutal. Yeah. It is brutal training. But it made him into a badass mofo. Yeah. And that's what they're about. You don't get, like in the air, he said, go to the Air Force. And I'm like, why the Air Force? And he said, because you get beds, you get bunk beds, you get great food, you get a hot meal, you get to stay inside. The Marines are not those people. And that started in World War II. And so
but anyways.
We have some interesting neighbors right now.
Anyways.
We do.
Okay, so you're right. I do agree. Though for the most part, and clarify me if I'm wrong, that was just infantry though. That was the Army. That was just infantry.
Those
were the Marines. Oh, okay.
Those were the Marines.
So wait, so then that whole boot camp that was Marines? Oh, okay. I mean, I'm assuming
they said the United States military. They never said the Army.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Interesting.
Desmond Doss was a Marine.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that. Anyways, okay, so war depictions. Okay, so from Hacksaw Ridge, to actually give us one moment. So Blake, you're wrong.
Yes, I want to retract my statement. Desmond Doss was an Army corporal.
Okay, all right, well that's good.
Thank you, Google.
I apologize. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I wrote down during the Battle of Hacksaw Ridge, they definitely shifted to different people and different perspectives, and it wasn't just as soon as they came over, it wasn't just Andrew Garfield the whole time. So, was that good? Do you think that was a good choice for them to do? Because I'm thinking if this is a movie about this guy who saved all these people, it should be an emphasis on these people. Did it take away? Do you guys think? Or
I don't know. I feel like we needed to see the carnage first. We needed to see the absolute
pure
hellfire that was going on before we could see Desmond shine.
Okay.
So we needed to see exactly what Desmond was dealing with in terms of scale.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody around him is getting shot at and shot and killed or injured or wounded.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can focus in on, okay, now Desmond, you're in.
Yeah.
Try to save these people.
Sure.
And that adds to the, oh my gosh, how the hell did he do this factor.
So you guys don't think at any point in time there was, and I don't want to say like blood just for blood, but like you don't think there was everything, all the violence and gore and horror that was shown in the movie was necessary? You don't think it overstepped itself? Because I get it. Mel Gibson is
I know
this
what you're
guy
trying
who
to
wants
get
to go
at,
all big and
yeah.
out and stuff like that. But
there was a much more psychological aspect behind the Pacific Front. So, like, for everyone who's seen Band of Brothers and Pacific, Band of Brothers is kind of like a Saving Private Ryan miniseries.
Yeah.
I don't know which one came first, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
The Pacific focus, a lot of people don't like it. They don't think it's as good as Band of Brothers because it's not Band of Brothers, but it wasn't trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
It was focusing much more on like the psychological side of it. Because again, it was a much more
style of fighting. It was this much more guerrilla warfare.
And in the Eastern Front, you knew, okay, the Germans are over there. We have to go that way.
Yeah.
In Japan, they could have been, or in the
on the Pacific Islands.
Front,
sure.
You were probably surrounded.
Okay.
It was a much more psychological
having
war, and I think having all that
having like thousands and thousands and thousands of Japanese.
Put it this way: if you were to compare horror movies, let's make it the front in Europe where was The Walking Dead, where you knew where they were, you knew where the zombies were, but you had to either stay where you had to go fight them.
Sure.
Versus The Conjuring was Japan, where you had, or the Pacific, where you had no idea what was going to come next. They could be in a tunnel right below you, and you'd have no idea. You just had to keep walking.
Okay.
And
I agree. I just for this movie, I think,
so you think some part of it was violence for the sake of violence kind of thing?
With what
and was it worth it?
With what we've said, with the different kind of aspect with the Pacific Front, I think you do need something to portray that. Sure. How you go about doing that, I guess it depends on the type of movie you want to make. Well, but for the purpose of this, I think it was
justified.
It was justified.
And that's totally fine.
But he ran into trouble with that. I remember he was doing an interview with Stephen Colbert right after the movie, and after Colbert gave him shit for, you've been through a lot lately, kind of thing,
Yeah.
He started asking him legit questions about, so do you think this movie glorifies war in a way? And he goes, absolutely not.
No.
I don't think any film director is going out making a war movie trying to glorify war. If that happens to people, that's not our intention. Our intention is to show what these guys go through at the most realistic sense possible.
And to bounce off of that, have you guys seen what was it, 13 Reasons Why? 13 Reasons. It was a Netflix.
Is it about a movie about him?
No, a Netflix series. It was a TV show, and so it was this girl. It totally not related to war at all.
Okay,
but it was this girl who ended up killing herself, and because she was bullied, and and spoiler alert, sorry, it's been out for a while, and if you've read the news at all, then you know that this is what happens. But anyways. Bullied, she was raped, she was abused, and so she goes through hell in high school, and she ends up killing herself. Well, at the end of the TV show, they show it, and it hurt me inside to watch this. Like,
how'd she do it? Do you remember?
She slit her wrists open like that.
She went up the road,
both arms, and then was just in the bathtub. And I wouldn't say it scarred me, but it definitely left a mental image.
It hit you.
Yeah, it very much. And so the same thing, backlash was, well, are you glorifying suicide? And the director was like, no, God, no. This is to show the horror of it, to show that this is the reality of what happens when people kill themselves. So I very much agree with that sentiment. So,
I think in society nowadays, though, and if you talk to a veteran that's been over there, he or she will tell you the same thing, which is our society glorifies that with video games, where you guys were playing Call of Duty when I walked in, spraying at zombies. It's not us over there, so we don't give a shit.
Sure.
And we watch, TV shows and movies that show these characters. It could never happen to us.
Mm-hmm.
But if you talk to any veteran that's seen combat, if he or she is willing to talk about it, because a lot of them don't, and I don't blame them at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that we as civilians can never understand.
Yeah.
And I remember when Saving Private Ryan came out, they actually had hotlines for veterans who would go see the movie.
Really?
To kind of talk them down from.
Oh wow!
Like, there was a bunch of veterans, World War II veterans, that would watch Saving Private Ryan,
and then
they would have to get up and leave.
Yeah.
They would have a PTSD breakdown.
Uh-huh.
And that happens all the time.
Wow.
There was a buddy that worked at the deli, Adon, who was friends with the other ginger dude, Josh.
Uh-huh.
He was in Afghanistan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was an Army private in Afghanistan.
I think
and July 4th, Josh was telling me that when the fireworks go off, he went inside into the bathroom, and Josh kind of looked around like, where's Adon? And he walks into the bathroom, and Don is in the bathtub in the fetal position, just freaking out.
Yeah.
He couldn't handle the fireworks. And so because of that, there are a lot of people that think these directors are glorifying war and violence and what it's like, but no director goes into making a movie like this thinking that.
You're
They're
right.
thinking
Exactly.
about making showing the most realistic side of war that we can see, as, short of actually going out to war.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hate the argument of glorifying violence. Quentin Tarantino also runs into trouble with this. He did an interview with this one girl, and she said, well, Quentin Tarantino doesn't do war films.
Glorifying racism?
No, glorifying violence, because
Quentin
Tarantino's films are extremely violent, and they show a lot of stuff. And this one reporter was like, why do you show this? And he's like, because it's so much damn fun. That's Tarantino.
Yeah.
If you have Spielberg or Oliver Stone or Coppola or Mel Gibson, they're not trying to do that at all.
Right.
There's a sentiment to what they're trying to do that I think is lost on a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, I very much agree. So just a couple more things I just want to touch on, kind of some small tidbits. Whenever he was pulling his drill sergeant, that towards the end of the movie when he was pulling him, he touched his gun, and I know he was super against that. And I was just I noticed for like a brief moment there was kind of like, I don't know, I guess a shock for him or something like that, where he grabbed the gun and he's like, it's a
little late for target practice, ain't it?
Yeah, and then I don't know if they did it on purpose or this was the intention for it, but he definitely like kind of had this, or at least I felt it looked like he had this kind of shock of like, oh, what am I doing?
Uncomfortability.
Exactly. So, was that planned or like, I don't know. I mean,
sure, it was in the script.
Okay.
They mentioned that was a scene like when he was in jail when his wife or soon to be wife at the time comes in. It's like, oh, just drop your pride and pick up the damn gun and like just don't shoot anyone.
Well, that's true. I mean, he did roll the gun though.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I guess it was to drave it as a tarp or whatever. So
yeah, that part I think it was to get his sergeant.
Sure.
Out of
Okay.
there.
All right. I didn't know if there was like any significance to it. At least in the
It
moment,
was
I was
a
just
nice
like,
little comic relief little segment.
True,
But
true.
you know.
And then, as I mentioned before, the little sprinkles of Mel Gibson that I feel is him.
Bird feathers and...
Well, yeah, exactly. The small little conversations and the bird feathers. And what just kind of threw me for a loop was whenever he got back. So at this point, he's saved all these people. We didn't even talk about him actually saving people.
75
people. So I guess to quickly recap, they go up to Hacksaw Ridge. They take it, at least for the night. And then in the morning, thousands and thousands and thousands, which I think may have happened. I feel like there was a little overdramatic presence.
So.
You think so? You think that
so
was
it
just
was
a pure
a
might
surprise
of the rising
attack?
sun?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
That's what these guys did. They
Sure.
caught you at your most vulnerable, weakest point.
Okay.
And
So
I don't know,
Pearl Harbor was on Sunday because they knew most people would be in church.
Okay.
It
Sure.
was
No,
part of
that
the
makes
attack.
sense.
I mean, I don't know the magnitude of that particular attack on that day.
Sure.
So,
but anyways,
yeah.
So they have to retreat, and then they go back down. And Andrew Garfield's character, he stays, and he's essentially going through looking for survivors. And I think it was very, very powerful. And I don't want to just quickly talk about it, but I definitely think it was very important. Just the one more. Give me strength. What was it? Give me strength for
Lord, help me get one more.
Lord, help let me get one more. I thought that was awesome, and that was something that was mentioned at the end of the movie, where that was an actual
documentary.
Thing. He did mention that. Yeah. So I thought that was awesome.
How about him actually saving Japanese soldiers too?
That I get, and I'm totally for it. And I didn't know that they'd show that. I thought, if anything, I thought they'd mention it. And they showed it, and they mentioned it.
He actually did that?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I would assume so. I don't know why he would just put that in there without it being true, but
nah, it was
true.
Yeah,
from the department. What was it? I just read it. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. But yeah, no, I thought the moments where Andrew was saving people and where he
Department of Defense National Archives, Desmond Doss is credited with saving 75 soldiers during one of the bloodiest battles of World War II in the Pacific. He did it without ever carrying a gun, and also saved 4 to 5 Japanese soldiers.
Wow. Okay. Well, anyways, so I thought overall it was awesome. Then they take back Hacksaw Ridge, and the scene where the Japanese come out and they're surrendering, but then they throw grenades and stuff, and then I thought that was kind of, and I don't know.
No, that was definitely Hollywood-fied, but
yeah,
he had to have gotten injured somehow.
Oh, well, sure, of course. And I mean, however they chose to do it, I think it was kind of a little cheesy that it's like, oh, I'm going to kick this grenade.
It was on the ground, and this, I remember one of my favorite radio stations were like, the movie was great up until that point, and I'm like, well, one, in war, you do anything you can to save people, and if a grenade is on the ground, you're going to kick it, you're going to do whatever you can.
And when I was watching the movie, it didn't take me out. I'm like, oh, this is stupid. But like, hindsight's 50-50, so looking back at it, I'm like, okay, I get it. They probably could have done it differently. And and I feel like that's an overarching theme of all of my arguments to anything is I'm just like, it could have been done differently. I don't know how. It just could have. Let the writers in Hollywood figure that out. But anyways, so he gets injured, and then there's this whole moment where as you mentioned before, the my Bible. I thought that ending was really awesome. Well done. I will say one thing though, when I was first listening to it, before he was like pointing to it and whatever. I thought he was saying Papa. I thought he was saying Papa, and I thought it was like, okay, is this like a calling because he was injured and his dad? Yeah, and I mean, again, didn't take me out of it. I was just like, wait, what? Oh, he's saying.
I think it would have made me more emotional if that was the case.
Probably. But anyways, so comes back, and then he gets to base, and then this is the final thing that I took notes on is this little sprinkled Mel Gibson. Is they had the scene where he had the water. He was taking the bath, and he's like in this majestic position as like
what other Mel Gibson movie did that?
Oh, I have no idea. I just felt Mel. I thought that was like it was extra for extra, and I think that's.
I don't know. I think it should. Remember what that water turned into? So the water splashed on him, and off came this.
Yeah, the blood. Yeah. So he's rinsing.
I thought it was a little hint to.
Oh, I'm sure it was
water
a religious,
to wine kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a religious thing, but that's what I'm saying. It's like. Purely, this probably never happened, but this is Mel Gibson saying, "Okay, we're washing away the sins and blah blah blah, whatever." So, but yeah, there's definitely, and I think that was the biggest little
sprinkle
feather, little sprinkle. So, yeah, but yeah, overall,
what other Mel Gibson movies have you seen, Yvonne?
I just know he's a.
Have you seen Braveheart?
I've seen parts of Braveheart.
Have you seen Apocalypto?
No.
Apocalypto is a great movie.
I just know. He's
like it. Or you seen it? Yeah. It's awesome.
I know, because The Passion of the Christ was an intense movie, and so I just know he's a very like Quentin Tarantino, but like not super extreme violence. Well, I don't know.
Quentin Tarantino is over the top, like ridiculous violence.
Yeah. But he's not trying to be serious about it.
Mel Gibson is realistic violence. Yeah, as opposed to Tarantino.
But it's I guess they're both very intense directors.
He does not shy away from showing it at all.
Okay.
Whereas some directors will, kind of hint at, okay, this happened.
Right. Okay. But yeah, that's all I've got. I thought it was an awesome movie.
I was gonna say, what do you rate it?
Out of 10?
Out of 10, what did I rate Birdman?
You rated Birdman a 5 chickens and a cow out of 6 goats and a steer.
I'll give this one a solid 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10?
I'll give it a solid.
I was
solid 40-75 corn stalks out of 22 to 4 to con stalks.
I'll give it 3 Mario Gold coins
out of
the what's 2.5 Yoshis.
Okay, all
That's
right.
bold.
That was a really bold.
I know.
Thing. Blake,
I'll go 8.2 out of 10.
Okay.
Why 8.2? Why not 8.3?
Smitty.
I don't know. I thought because obviously, God, we're gonna keep talking about this, but I think obviously with the characters, you're gonna have all those characters like, oh, I judged you wrong, man. I hope you can forgive me. So I don't know. I thought Smitty was okay.
Yeah,
it's kind of my only thing though is, and I think again, this is a product of Mel Gibson coming back into Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we watch Saving Private Ryan, there's a platoon that we follow for the whole movie. And each and every single one of those actors did a phenomenal job because they are amazing actors.
At the same time, how long was Saving Private Ryan?
3 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
you think if they had
how much?
Yeah, we
had
a lot
of time. You can
fair enough, but also some of those characters didn't make it all 3 hours. And
that is also
real quick, and that's totally fine. I don't want to branch off into it too much, but do you think if this movie had another hour, do you think it would be better?
It'd be too long.
Too long?
I think it'd be too long.
Oh, you think 2 hours?
I think this was perfect. I kind of don't like how they did a little montage. I think it would have been cool if they showed a little bit more of Desmond saving people.
True.
Or at the very end, they showed a little bit more of the battle sequence.
Okay.
As opposed to it being a montage. But again, this movie wasn't about that. It was about Desmond.
True.
And Desmond didn't make it all the way through the second part of Hacksaw Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
He had to get carried off.
True.
And so I kind of get why they did the montage.
Okay. For the cast and for the writing and production, it was good work. Because if you're going to do a 3-hour movie, you better be damn sure.
You better have a lot of...
That's true. You don't want to have crap
But
actors.
I think for what it is
10.
and what it was and what it was trying to do, it did pretty well.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys.
Would you watch this? Would you show this movie on a date?
Yeah, I would. I would.
Not a first date.
This would be...
Not a first date, no.
No, I got to show... I'm intense, baby. Here we go. Hacksaw Ridge! Da-da-da!
She's like, oh, the first part is really cute. It's nice. It's sweet. Oh, Desmond.
And then, hey,
And
look!
then-
That's a small intestine and there's maggots in his eyes!
All right. I appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't ask you, would you show it on a date?
I took
Like-
my girlfriend to go see this.
Oh,
so,
you did?
yeah.
Okay. All right. Thomas?
Depends.
Depends.
We'll leave it
that's
at
fine.
that.
That's right. That's all right. All right, everybody. That was the one more movie review. Hope you guys enjoy and have a great day, night, or whatever time you'll sing at this movie review thing. And that is the end of the show. All right. I just wanted to give a shout out to Sabrina Parker because she's like a financial genius, okay? Like anything that has to deal with real estate, she is the person to talk to, okay? All of her information is down in the description below. You need to give her a call, a email, a gift, a basket of money. Actually, give me a basket of money. Anyways, anything and everything you have to do with buying, selling, renting, leasing, literally anything. Give her a call. She'll see what she can do for you, which would be to make lots of money. So if you want to make lots of money, definitely give her a call, okay? I'm just going to keep saying that you should give her a call. What am I going to do next episode? Tell you to give her a call. Okay, bye-bye now.
Sitting in my office with a plate of grilled bacon. Call a man twice just to see what was shaking. Yo, Mike, our town is dope and pretty. So check out how we live in the Electric City. They call it Scranton. What? The Electric City. Scranton. What? The Electric City. Lazy Scranton, the Electric City. They call it that because of the electricity. The city's laid out from east to west, and our public parks and libraries are truly the best. Call poison control if you're bit by a spider. But check that it's covered by your healthcare provider. Plenty of space space in the parking lot, but the little cars go in the compact spot. Spot! 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 Snack attack time! Don't lose your head! We like Cuginos for the tasty bread! They call it Scranton. What? The Electric City. Scranton. What? The Electric City. Scranton. What? The Electric City. Scranton. What? The Electric City.